you, Lord, for the season that we're in and we're about to end as a city, and all the events and the activities and all the energy that it's planned. God, I thank you, Lord, for that. And Lord, just thank you for all the people in the city that make it go on a day-to-day basis. Lord, we appreciate them and their families. And Lord, most of all, we appreciate the people that protect it on a daily basis, and just make sure that everyone's safe and just flows just as normal as possible. God, I ask you, Lord, be with the meeting tonight. Let the things be discussed be for the benefit of those therein. And thank you for always just watching over us and our city. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. You'll stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'll put the agenda up there, and while you're looking over the agenda, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Lilly. Here. Mizell. Here. Preston.
Here.
King. Here. Phillips.
Here.
Mayor Mitchell.
Here. Give you a few more seconds. It's a fairly busy agenda tonight, so take you a little extra time to read the small print. Okay, we will move on. As always, the first item is the consent agenda, which is the approval of the minutes from the April 15th regular council meeting. All the council has a copy of the minutes in their package, should have had an opportunity to review those. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Okay, if none, let the record show the minutes are approved as written. And we will start with the department reports. The fire chief's not here today, so the important or the significant item on there, everything's in the green, is we've had some challenges with keeping a recruiting and retention coordinator for the SAFER grant. And so consequently, we haven't accomplished as much as I would like. So first one came on board, and after a while didn't really accomplish anything, and then he left. Second one said, yep, I'm ready to come on board. Did absolutely nothing, never heard from him. So we hired one who was probably the third of our top four that we had initially interviewed, and she has come on board, and the difference is she is not she's not a fireman. The other two were one was a fire chief, one was a battalion chief at a different department, but she is a recruiting and retention, and that's what safety is all about, coordinator by profession. And so far been very pleased. She's really hit the ground running, and so looking forward to some good work from her. So
How long has she been here?
Oh, probably a month now, yeah. So talked to her probably a couple of months ago, got her on board about a month ago. And so she is not from Columbiana, but she's traveled down here. She's, gone to the firehouse and met with the team during their training sessions. She's met with the firefighting guys at CTEC, and she's already started coming up with some advertising, social media type campaign work. She's done quite a lot in a short period of time. So, but I guess by comparison, anything would have been quite a lot in a short period of time. So that's about all I got for the fire department. Any questions?
How old do you have to be to volunteer?
Well, our rule is 18. We don't let them drive the truck, but that is not a requirement by state law by any stretch of the imagination. I talked to the FEMA SAFER grant coordinator, who's a former volunteer fire department chief was in Virginia, in rural Virginia. He said he had kids as young as 16, and he said, out in the farm country, you don't have a lot to choose from, and if Farmer John's barn's on fire, you're happy for anybody to hold the water hose and spray it down. So I don't think there's a state minimum requirement, but we have an 18-year-old.
So if they're 18, we can send them to fire college, all that stuff, then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, and so the significant, to me, benefit of this is there are 10 scholarships for new recruits that can be the significant carrot, if you will, for recruiting is 10 scholarships for kids who might want to go to, it could be, trade school, it could be junior college, it could be a four-year institution if they wanted to. So it's $4,000 per student. If you
What would be the age to drive the truck?
21.
Okay.
Again, that is something that we have mandated because of insurance rates. We could lower that if we wanted to, and probably be a good idea to look at it and see what the delta is. But right now, it's 21 because of insurance requirements. And again, that's something that we've decided to do, and that's been in place since before this administration came in, but it seemed prudent, so we've kept it in place. Any other questions? Okay. Books. Library.
All right, so, we've had no issues with safety, our visit is good, staff is good. We had an estimate of 1,165 visitors for the month of April. We provided $41,006 worth, about that much worth of services in March, and about $41,596 in April. Both of these are down from the previous year. However, in our stats, it shows how many hits we get on our Wi-Fi. We hit 10,000 hits on that Wi-Fi. So that is every time someone hits off our Wi-Fi, whether it's an employee, it's a patron. So these numbers are really kind of down. As I said, we take a week of counting, try to count everyone that comes through the door. That is how we do our counting at this point. I have looked at maybe getting a door counter, but we would need two of them because we do have two exterior doors. But I am pricing those so that we get a better feel of who comes in and out of the library. We are getting ready for summer reading. Sign-ups start May 27th. The theme this year is Color Our World. It's about art, music, dance, acting, just the performing arts. It runs from June 3rd through July 12th. And then, of course, in August, we'll have the adult reading program. But for June and July, it is for any school-age child.
Any questions for Jennifer? Well, I have one. The 10,000 Wi-Fi hits, do you have data on that? Is that high, low?
That is the most that I have seen since I've worked there. We would fluctuate anywhere between 8,000, 9,000, but we hit 10,000 this past month.
So even if you had a lower visit count, they've been active.
Right. As I said, and that estimate is we take 1 week out of the month and we count. So 1 week is busier than other weeks, and it's just, I just kind of plug those numbers in.
Okay.
So.
That's interesting.
Any other questions for Jennifer? Okay. Environmental Services.
Everything's going pretty good. We lost one of our employees a couple of weeks ago. That was Larry Campbell. He passed away. So remember their family in your thoughts and prayers. Actually, funny story, I replaced Larry when he retired 23 years ago. So he come back and worked for us part-time. We hate he's gone, but we're going to miss him. Highlights and opportunities, they've got the basin walls poured at the treatment plant. If anybody wants to ride by, it's open to anybody who wants to come by and look, just give us a call, we'll let you in. They're going to be pouring the clarifiers probably next week. They're moving the form boards, getting those ready to pour. So they're shooting for next July having the entire project done. maybe by January, February, we'll have this one side going and take the other side out and start on it, so. It's moving along pretty good, we're just waiting on a lot of parts, with all this stuff going on, getting supplies in, so that's the biggest issue right now.
So along those lines, is Apple concerned about not being able to get the
No,
parts?
they give them a timeline. They thought it was gonna be sooner, so they should have most of their parts in by October, November. Then it'll take them to January or February to get that put in.
And any of those parts coming from, I assume some of them are coming from outside the country?
Yes, sir.
We'll have to keep an eye on that. Are there alternative domestic sources that you know of?
Not as I know of. Then on the planning and zoning side, we're doing zoning forums every day, 9 to 10s. I mean, the building's still going on, very strong in Springs Crossing, Saddlewood, and then, we've got a few throughout town that's building new homes, so that's still wide open also.
Okay. Any other questions for Dale?
So you're gonna fill that part-time employee position, I guess?
We probably are, if we'll get with Charlene and see if we can advertise for part-time.
Would this be a general labor position?
Yes,
So you
just
wouldn't have to
general.
have any qualification for it?
Like, no qualifications, just like grass cutting, weed eating.
Okay.
Extra set of hands.
Any other questions? Thanks, Dale. Community Affairs and Senior Services.
All right, so we are looking forward to the summer. The Sunset Music and Market dates are set. That is every Friday night in June, and then July 11th and 18th. And Liberty Day is scheduled for June 27th and 28th. And then we have already scheduled the Community Pep Rally for August 15th. And we will do that back on Main Street. And then after the pep rally's over, we'll have music that night too. So that will be a lot of fun. The Senior Center served 1,100 meals in April. The patio is looking great. They say by next Friday that they will be finished. We'll cross our fingers on that one. And then we got a grant from Shelby County to furnish the patio with some new patio furniture, so that will be nice. And then this Friday, they're doing a Mother's Day celebration at 10:30, if anybody would like to come. So, and then there are 7 events scheduled. May is a busy month at the Grand Hall, so lots of stuff going on there this month.
On another note, or a related note, and I'll send it to you, I received a email notification today, and I haven't read all the details, but it's a grant from the Hugh Daniel Foundation, and it deals with, food service and assistance and help for seniors and things like that. So I'll
Yeah,
send
that'll
that to you, and let's see what we can
Yeah, absolutely.
find out about that. I don't know what the amount available is or the requirements. I just scanned it and didn't have a chance to read it.
And I think if you don't mind, I'm gonna go into announcements. I'm going to leave in a few minutes and Ashley's gonna come run the system.
Okay.
Caroline has a
Sure.
school thing.
You want me to go to that chart?
Yeah, if you want to. All right, so Shelby County High School graduation is at the University of Montevallo on the 20th. The 26th is Memorial Day, and these are the bands for Sunset Music and Market. The 6th is the Cash Domino Killers. The 13th of June is the Stepdads. Kingfish on the 20th. July 11th is Dakota McClurk and the Double Barrel Band. And then the 18th of July is Lee Allen Carter. So then Liberty Day, Friday night is the Heather Hayes Experience, and then Saturday night headliner is Easton Corbin. So fun stuff.
Is there an opening act?
For Easton Corbin? Yes, there is.
You don't know who that
Her
is?
name is Ashley. My brain has got too much information in it. I'm sorry,
That's okay.
Abrams,
Ashley Abrams, okay, so we'll look that up. Just, you know, people need to come to these things and see these folks. I always say that, the very first, Cowboy Day when I was mayor, and I'm always, it's February, it's kind of chilly in the morning. We kick things off at 10 a.m. and nobody's there. And you're welcoming nobody, okay? And so, but after my welcoming, I had to introduce our first act. And it was a young lady from Hope Hall, Alabama, named Ella Langley. She just won the Academy of Country Music Best New Female Artist Award. So you never know. You could be a star. And
well,
you
that's
could
kind
see
of
a star.
our goal always, is to book people who, like, we had the Red Clay Strays here. That's a big deal, that's a really big deal.
Yeah, so yeah, Columbiana is the motion picture capital of Alabama, as well as, you know, the birthplace of music stars. So come out and see these folks. All right. Now, I'm gonna have to do this the easy way and just kind of scroll back to where we were. Okay, I didn't check. Did we have any boards meet?
Library board met.
Yes, ma'am. Well, good.
Okay, so, we met, it was basically playing catch-up because we had not had a forum since October. So we basically just kind of went through some of the stuff that the library has been doing. The I Spy box that we have done, the caterpillars that we had that we released this past week. They are now butterflies and flying around Columbiana. We just kind of, just, as I said, just kind of played catch up on informing stuff on bills in the Senate and the House and things like that that are going to affect us, and talking about the policy changes that we had to do. But other than that, that was just what we did at our board meeting. We will meet again June 17th.
Okay. Any questions for Jennifer about the board? Any of the boards meet?
The beautification board did, and we need to, we need to appoint a new person, but we also need to reappoint the people we have because their terms have expired.
Yeah, so my understanding is, so we're gonna add Jill
Jill
Lee
Lee.
as a new member, and all the other members' terms have expired, but they have agreed to serve an additional term. So, if you would, you could name those and then move that we.
Okay, Susan Kahn,
And when you say when their terms are gonna expire?
okay, and her term will end October 1st of 25. Helen Gibson, her term will end October of 27.
Okay, let me interrupt. So Susan's hasn't expired.
No,
It
it
expired in
has
2010.
expired. The new term date will be October of 25.
That won't be the end of her term. I mean, she
Well,
would just be
it
serving
expired
6 months.
in 22.
It expired in.
Oh,
2010.
okay.
So
Never
I'm
mind.
giving you the new expired date.
All
Is that
right.
okay?
Never mind. You guys are really on the ball there.
Yeah. This is one draw we do.
All right, sorry. By the way, this is an advisory board, but all the other boards, if you don't reappoint somebody, the way the statutes are written, they just continue to serve until you do appoint somebody, but then the person you appoint just finishes whatever the term should have been. But in this case, it's an advisory board, so we can kind of do what we want, I guess.
Okay, so Susan's date will be October of 25. Helen Gibson will be October of 27. Emily Gravitt will be October 25. Hope Finley will be October 26. Lisa Davis will be October of 27. Michelle Coburn will be October 25th of 2025. I will be October 26th, and Stephanie Royer will be October of 25.
Okay.
And then adding Jill Lee, and she will be October of 26.
So would you like to?
Those are our recommendations and requests.
Okay, so would you like to move that we appoint them?
Please, because these these people have originally wanted to be on this board, so they have asked.
So I'll take that as a motion. Is there a
Yes,
second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, everybody's appointed and reappointed.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Okay, so this is the second reading of the proposed food truck ordinance to replace our last food truck ordinance that we had. A few changes, nothing real significant, and I think what we've put together is a heck of a lot better than what we had before. So the council has had an opportunity to, we had a good discussion at the last meeting and had an opportunity to review the ordinance again since the last meeting, possibly an opportunity to hear from your constituents on that. So is there any discussion from the council about the ordinance?
No, but I did do some research, if you let me have some
Sure.
time there.
You bet.
So no, I have not heard from anybody directly to or for the proposed ordinance. And going back to what you just mentioned, the previous ordinance was really not for food trucks, it was for food carts. So if you go back and look at the graphs on the thing, the food cart was right there in front of, the Methodist Church. There was right there in front of Morris's Law Firm and maybe another area, whatever. So really, it was a food cart ordinance. So I have not heard from anybody, but I wanted to do my own research. All right, so just to make sure that we were not out of whack with our proposed food ordinance. So I reached out to 6 cities, 5 of which are in Shelby County. I reached out to 3 more, and they either didn't have something on the website or I never heard back. So I try to touch everybody's thing. So one of our clauses in our food ordinance talks about the parking spaces associated with businesses or whatever. I don't know how that's calculated, but there's a calculation out there. There's a logarithm or whatever. Every one of those ordinances they're on that are passed by those cities included that parking space clause. Every one of them. All of those other ordinances, including ours, all of them had had them all off public rights of way. Every ordinance. And I even talked to another pretty high-ranking official in government space, and I asked him. I said, why do these food trucks aren't allowed on public rights of way? And he says, just for the hazard and the risk purposes only. Okay. All right. So I looked at the proximity of restaurants, building entrances. 3 of the 5 had no less than 200 feet within a building entrance or a restaurant. And to me, there's a purpose for that clause, right? So if we talk about any business, let's say for instance on Main Street, or just say non-chain business, mom or pop shop, small business owner, there's a purpose for that clause, okay? And we go back, I looked at the thing on Facebook all the time, and you look at that, brick and mortar businesses in small towns they're the ones supporting your local schools. They're the ones supporting all these other things, fashions. There's a reason that clause is in there, regardless of what that feet is. Okay, that footage is 3 of the 5 in Shelby County has at least 200 plus feet. Okay, but all of them had that some sort of clause in there. All had the clause of non-residential clauses unless the HOA approved. So I wanted to make sure that we were not out of whack, and I have my notes here if anybody wants to look. It's a graph here. They all had times on there that the food trucks can or cannot operate. So I want to make sure I did my research and not just be passing something or denying something that was just completely out of whack. So I do not think the city of Columbiana is food truck unfriendly. I don't believe that. I don't know that, to my knowledge, that a food truck has ever been asked to leave the city. I believe that. I could be wrong. Back in the day when we passed the mobile cart ordinance, there was some discussion about, well, y'all didn't designate this area. Can I have a food truck on my personal property? in a business. At that time, it was no. And I challenged that simply because if I own the property, can I put something on there that would, if I own the property, you know? So I wanted to make sure I did my research again, just to make sure that we were not out of whack with our food ordinances, because no, we do not want to run food trucks, because I think this body up here, one, we're citizens of Columbiana too, and we all want variety. I think we're not, but I haven't asked anybody up here, but I can assume that nobody up here is food truck non-friendly. So I want to make sure that I did my research. Here's the chart if everybody wants to look at it, and I'll tell you the cities that I looked at. So looked at Pelham, Alabaster, Helena, Clanton, Alabama, Montevallo, and Calera. Okay, I did not get anything from Chelsea. Vincent didn't have one on their site. I reached out to Wilsonville, and I did not hear a response. So, go ahead.
Okay, I did have 2 calls actually. And they were concerned about our number 10, which I am too. This is part of me too. That the food truck has to be moved every night. If that's the owner's property, I do not think that they should have to move that truck.
Okay.
And especially if it's not within the 200 feet, you know, as long as they abide by everything else. The 2 people that called me and myself all agree with this. So I'm just letting that be known,
You're saying agree with deleting that?
deleting that.
Okay. Any other thoughts on that? One way or the other? I mean, no thoughts or just?
I don't
support
mind
what
if they
she
stay.
says?
I don't mind if they stay there. Obviously, I mean, if the
Well,
business.
if they're paying sales tax, so, I mean,
So no objections?
It's up to
As
the
far as I
property
know.
owner.
Okay. So what we can do is we can, when we get ready to pass this ordinance, we can say that it will be, we'll pass it with deleting that particular
Eliminate
item.
number 2, yeah.
Okay.
But I would also, I'm a big proponent of finding solutions. So we need to identify, you know, I made a mention in the work session we had that night. And I looked at it the other day, you know, we need to identify areas that food trucks can come and go as they please. One area back here, I think, it's a great one back, we mentioned back here behind the fire department. I know that's off the beaten path a little bit. But I would even consider over there where we had Touch a Truck,
yeah,
right there in that little pocket. Because I think, I went out there and looked at those parking spots right there, and there's a little oval there, and there is some handicap, and you can
Right.
identify you can't park there. But I think that's accessible to probably 4 or 5 food trucks if they pull around that curve. But I want to make sure that I did my research, and I'm happy to share this information with anybody who wants to see it.
thank you, because I was not understanding the parking space.
And I don't know that logarithm, but I know it exists.
Well,
Yep.
for our zoning ordinance, I don't think it's tied to a logarithm. It
Yeah.
just says 200 feet and 100 feet based on certain things. Square feet of parking space, depending upon the size of the building, the type of building, and that sort of stuff. And as I mentioned when I sent that out, that applies to the parking that's available during the normal hours of the business. And so, you know, most of the food trucks are coming to an area when a business might be closed, so if a business owner operates it. So, to be honest with you, I personally don't think that it would have any impact, that number of parking spaces. And my guess is, that was the 2001 ordinance that the city adopted, that particular zoning ordinance. And I'm sure we did back then, just like we've done now. You go and you look around at what other cities are doing and try to do some homework and say, you know, this is reasonable. But as far as an algorithm, I'm not sure if there is one, but it's probably
Well,
somewhere in some code somewhere.
Well, I'll make one final point, and I think I'm on board with everybody up here. Food trucks are welcome in the city of Columbiana.
Absolutely.
However, if they are operating in Shelby County, they're going by the same guidelines as in this ordinance. So it should be nothing new.
Any other comments? Okay. So, first of all, I appreciate the research that you did, and I agree with everything you said, except one.
What's that?
Our existing ordinance does cover food trucks.
Okay.
It calls it mobile vending units, and it talks about carts as well. But what that existing ordinance, it provided one location for food trucks, and that was the courthouse overflow lot. And and any other location was supposed to require approval by the city council. That was not happening. So
Yep.
what we've got now, by saying if a property owner and business owners agree to it, then it's okay. And I think it's much more food truck friendly than what we had before, at least from an ordinance perspective, so.
Yep.
Any other comments? Okay, so as far as the reading, I'm not going to read this very lengthy ordinance in detail, but before it gets introduced, I am going to cover the basics that we covered in the initial reading. Every mobile food unit operator has to obtain a business license. Our old ordinance said not only did they have to obtain a business license, but they also had to obtain a permit from the city. And we have deleted that requirement. I think some cities still have that permit requirement when I went and reviewed that, but some did not, okay? So they have to get a business license from the city, and they won't get that business license until they get approved by the health department and have their food license. And then, because they have to get approval from the business owner and the property owner to where they want to park their food truck, they have to post that. That has to be in writing, and they have to post that along with their health department license to where it's visible from the food truck. Hours of operations are 6 to 10 p.m. local time, the 200 feet that Ricky talked about. Obviously, you can't block fire access to fire hydrants, handicap ramps, building entrances, things like that. They got to dispose of their waste. We're going to delete item 10, which is the requirement to that the food truck be moved when it's not in operation. Let me see. Oh, we talked about audible devices. So if somebody's got music or something like that playing, it's supposed to not be audible more than 50 feet from the food truck. No flashing lights or anything that could, interfere or be a distraction to traffic or anything like that. But if you need lights, obviously to see at night, such as a push cart or something, you can use those as long as there's a protective shield so that it wouldn't blind any traffic or anything like that. The minimum spaces we talked about. Signage, there was a question about whether or not the A-frame signs is compliant with which is authorized in this proposed ordinance, whether or not that is in compliance with our city ordinance, and I believe it is, because there's sort of I forget what it's called now, a general category of signs that you can use, miscellaneous signs, and I think the A-frame would apply to that. And then now it's a permitted sign, so theoretically you're supposed to have a permit for it, but I believe that since this ordinance allows it, then that would eliminate the requirement for a permit for the A-frame sign for the food truck. So the rest of this stuff is sort of, how you're going to get slapped on the wrist if you don't comply with it. So any other questions about the proposed ordinance?
No, but if a food truck comes to town and they want to ask if they can set up on city property, where do they need to go? City Hall?
Yeah.
And ask that question? Okay.
Okay. So would someone like to introduce the ordinance?
I'll introduce ordinance 042502 to establish standards and definitions for food trucks.
And I'll second with the removal of.
Okay.
Item 10, yes.
Removal of item 10. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Lilly? Yes. Mizell?
Yes.
Preston?
Yes.
King?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Mayor Mitchell?
Yes. Okay, so the ordinance is passed.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
So, I just want everybody to just remember, to me, this is the most important part. Number 5, as long as they have the property or business owner's permission to park a food truck somewhere, we're not gonna tell you no. It's Shelby County's already said the overflow lot is accessible.
It's good, yes,
I do know they have to remove it at the end of the day.
yes.
O'Reilly's lets food trucks come there. I think Snap Fitness has let people come there. So as long as they have the property owner or the business owner's approval,
Yep.
we're good.
You bet. And obviously all the licensing.
Yes.
And I
please
guess
come
you'll
get a
keep that approval on file, I guess, right?
Well,
They can submit it with their business
they're
application, but
supposed,
they'll also keep it
exactly,
there.
they have to submit that and their health department license, and I may not have said that a minute ago, with their, application for a business license.
Very good.
So what we need to figure out, we passed this thing already, is, what we're gonna do with those food trucks who are already licensed. I think we should probably, notify them that there is a new food truck ordinance and either send them a copy of it or let them know where they can see a copy of it, so, right? Okay. It's a long ordinance. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is a resolution authorizing the condemnation of property necessary for a water drainage improvement project along Depot Street. Now, before we get into this, I'm gonna kind of refresh everybody, give us some background. I've asked Brian Kilgore to be here, the city attorney, so he can straighten me out for all the things that I might say that are incorrect. But essentially, the condemnation process is basically just acquiring an easement through the authority that municipalities have under eminent domain, okay? And it essentially requires us to compensate the person that we're acquiring that easement from a fair market value for the easement that we require. And in this particular case, this is an ARPA-funded project, and this would be an allowable cost that we could bill using our ARPA funds. So I wanted to start off with, this is the reason why we need to do this. This is Depot Street, most significant flooding area in the city of Columbiana. Actually, that is Depot Street. This is somebody's yard. And along Depot Street and adjacent to this particular yard, there is a culvert. And the project that we're talking about is replacing this culvert. And the property that we need the easement from is on the other side of the street, on this side of the ditch. We have an easement from this property owner, which is Bryant Bank, and we have an easement from this property owner. The flooding is caused by the backup, if you will, of water on this side of the street, because these are two 30-inch diameter pipes. The new culvert will replace those with, it'll be a box culvert. There will be one box opening that will be 3 feet high and 12 feet wide, one just continuous opening. So instead of having a little pipe here and a little pipe here, there'll just be a big rectangular opening right there so that the water can flow freely through it, and it will mitigate the backup of water that causes this flooding during significant rain events. So that's what the project is. The property that we're talking about is right here behind, this is Taco Bell, this is College Street, this is Depot Street. You're going to see in the resolution that the address of the property is College Street, but the easement is just a tiny little area, 4/100ths of an acre, right here. And this is a drainage ditch that runs between these two properties, essentially, approximately the boundary line between those two properties. And 90% of the area that we're asking for the easement is inside the ditch. It's already there. When some of you may remember, who've been around a while, such as me, I guess, this used to be Hardee's was here. And so this entire parcel at one point in time was Hardee's, had the College Street address. And so when it split off, and I call this a flag type parcel, and this flag, so that little flagpole is still touching College Street, and that is why the address, the physical address of this property is still College Street, but the actual work is going to be done adjacent to Depot Street. So kind of take a look at it. The resolution talks about an attachment A, which is not in our packet, which is basically the diagram of the easement, which is this right here. This is an aerial photograph of the same area. This is the flagpole property, and that's the particular area where the work is being done with the culvert being replaced across Depot Street. So just so you can get an orientation of it. This right here gives you a better feel for the area of the easement, and at least in my mind. The blue shaded area is the area of the easement. This is about 70 feet. The easement total, which includes some of this over on Bryant Bank's side, is about 70 feet long over here on this side of the street and approximately 30 feet wide. You can see this heavy dark line that I've put on here, that is the property boundary between the Bryant Bank property and the Homestead properties. And you see all these little rocks and stuff in here. So what that is riprap. And this is why we need to have an easement to maintain that. So we got to have an easement, obviously, for the culvert itself, but then the city is going to line this portion of it with riprap to control erosion within the ditch. It currently does not have that. And you can see these dashed lines represent the walls of the ditch there. So you can see that the majority of this easement is actually in the ditch. I circled this right here because we are going to put some riprap here. And this dashed orange line out here, these are temporary construction easements, not a permanent easement. What we're really concerned about is the permanent easement. And there's a driveway right here, and the property owner has put I think it's about a 10-inch pipe underneath it. And so when it rains and you have water flowing, it flows into the ditch here underneath there. And so we're going to go ahead and put some riprap in that using this temporary construction easement. But that won't be part of the area that will be required to maintain. So
is it two different parcels?
well, we already have the easement for this parcel right here, which is Bryant Bank. We don't have this easement right here. So now we have been talking to Homestead Properties for really almost 2 years. And the principal officer of Homestead Savings and Mortgage is a very congenial person. And he had indicated to us, no problem, we're happy to give you that easement. We know it's going to benefit the city, et cetera, et cetera. It took some time because we had to get the survey and the track sketches done by the engineers. And then Bill prepared the easements. And we sent them to him, and we didn't hear from him. And we kept trying to get in touch with him and get him to respond. And we finally did. And again, we met with him several times. Once again, very cordial, but he had an issue with the easement being permanent. He said, you can do the work, I don't care, but I don't want to give you a permanent easement. Well, a couple of reasons Brian probably can give you from the state's perspective, since we are using public funds and creating essentially permanent infrastructure, which is storm drainage infrastructure, that has been there for a while, and we're improving it. On private property, we must have a permanent easement for that. We are also using federal funds, and the federal government says, yes, you must have a permanent easement for that. So you can't just get a temporary easement, build it, and then go away. So that's the reason. I thought several times that we were good to go, and the last time I spoke with the principal officer, I said, well, look, if there's something that you dislike about the language, tell me what you'd like to see changed, and let's work with it. So, and then I could try to follow up, and I couldn't get any response. So I asked Brian to get in touch with him and talk with him, thinking maybe that the lawyer talks to him, maybe he'll listen to the attorney. And Brian thought he was making some progress at one point in time, and then crickets again. So now we're to the point to where we are going through this condemnation process. And my hope and my goal and my desire is that when we send him the letter and say we're initiating the condemnation process, he'll come to the table. We offered him, we made an offer to him for the easement, and he countered with something that, in my opinion, was excessive, but we'll see. So I'm hoping that, because he'll want to go get an attorney, and rather than go through that problem, that we can come to terms without having to go through this. But we got to initiate the process. So, anything I need to say?
No, I think that pretty much encapsulates it. I think one thing, and if I haven't introduced myself, I'm Brian Kilgore. I see a couple places I didn't get to shake your hand when you came in. But no, we've basically, the way the process is laid out, first, there has to be some sort of voluntary offer first to the property owner, and then after a certain period of time, usually roughly 30, 45 days, you file suit with probate court. Probate court then has a hearing to determine if there's a public purpose for this. Our probate judge is very good and gets these done very quickly, so that will probably be done within a matter of maybe 30 days. And then there's a process where the probate judge appoints 3 commissioners to look at the property and determine this, what was it again, 4/100ths of an acre, what the fair market value is for that, to make sure that, you know, if there was any sort of challenge over that voluntary offer that we make, and then they will determine what they believe it to be fair market value. Then there's a whole appeal process. It can go to circuit court, et cetera. But just to let you know that the way the process is set up, and I think Mayor has been over backwards trying to come to some sort of voluntary conveyance of this easement to this point, and I ran into the very same issue. Just the amount of money that was not even really countered. We never actually received a counter to say, hey, this is the amount of money that will finalize this, and I'll give you my easement. You just go, well, your starting point needs to be about 3 times what you offered, and then maybe we'll talk after that. So unfortunately, that's brought us to where we are. But the process is very quick from this point going forward. So I do recommend that after all of the interactions with the property owner, that your authorization for me to proceed with anything. But as soon as I file this, he may very well come back and say this compensation works. So just letting you know that worst case scenario, it may be 2-3 months. The probate judge has to order somebody to evaluate what the value of his property is. Well, I guess even worse than that, he could appeal that to a circuit court, which unfortunately I could kick it out another several months. But then he'd have a jury trial, and then the jury trial would decide. So I'm just muddied everything up with a lot of procedural speak there, but that's essentially what you're looking for as far as a timeline.
So I want to add one more thing, and then we can discuss as necessary. But in my mind, time is of the essence. So because we were under the impression we were going to, I don't have a problem, you can do the work, we were going to get these easements. Because these were ARPA funds, we bid and awarded that contract in December of '24, which was a requirement of ARPA. Now, we knew that we still had some administrative things to do, so in the contract that we awarded, we put a clause in there regarding the notice to proceed for the contractor, that we anticipated providing the contractor a notice to proceed plus or minus 30 days from April the 1st. Well, that 30 days after April the 1st has passed. Now, because it was anticipated, it wasn't a hard and fast, but I still believe that, you start applying the reasonable person rules and things like that. We can't just let it go forever, which means that potentially the contractor could walk away. And the risk is we lose our ARPA funds, and I don't want to lose these ARPA funds. So, and this is a project that needs to be done in my mind.
So I had a couple questions.
Sure.
To determine the market value, they don't have to get an appraisal. You just said it's determined by 3 commissioners. Is that what you
The
said?
best practice is to have an appraisal done, because there's 2 things. First, you have to offer reasonable fair market value, and also any sort of damage that may be caused to the remainder.
Sure,
You know,
yeah.
if this,
Highest
you know,
best use type
if this
thing.
improves the remainder, then, you know, that's kind of, so you don't pay them, you know, so yes, if there was any sort of damage, it would also compensate for that. But I think, that in this case, we'd already made an offer based upon just some rough calculations as far as, what it appraised for versus this very small amount of acreage. And I think that it's very close in proximity to where it would appraise. But maybe out of abundance of caution, after you authorize this, we should have an appraiser to confirm that value before we move forward.
How big is 4/100ths of an acre?
Well, it's 30 feet
Or
by
square
70
footage of
feet,
that.
right there. Well, actually, it's less than 30 by 100 because part of this easement, the 30 by 70, if you will, is over here on the Bryant Bank property. So his piece of it is, this down here is 30 feet, this up here, I can't read it from here, so I don't know what the dimensions is, but it's less than 30 at the north end. I do want to show you one more thing, one more slide. This is a photograph that I got from AT&T. So this is Depot Street, so that you're oriented, you go this way, this is Highway 25, behind these trees over to the left here is Bryant Bank. You cross Highway 25, obviously, the middle school. And this is the property in question. The little driveway is here and the little pipe is here, and you can see it's the water running down there sort of created its own little ditch. The right-of-way to Depot Street extends about 5 feet each side of the road. So there is, I tried to step it off, probably another 5 feet or so to this. This is the lip of the culvert on the south side. Is that the south side? Yeah, because that would be west there, so that would be south. And then there's a sidewalk here, and the lip of the culvert on the other side is over here. So the culvert is already on Homestead Savings and Mortgage property. It has been since the time it was built. But there's no easement other than what would, I guess, be considered prescriptive easement. Now, the other thing is you go along this ditch all the way down to College Street, and in under the ground there is a sewer line and a gas line for which there is no easement other than a prescriptive easement. And I don't even want to go into that. Brian could probably explain all that to me. And then when I spoke to AT&T, you can see this pole right here. It is also on the Homestead property, and they have no easement other than a prescriptive easement. Now, one thing that's included in the work scope is I've circled that pole in red because during construction of this culvert, that pole is going to have to be moved. Whether or not it'll be moved permanently or temporarily moved and put back where it's at, I don't know. If it's moved permanently, it's murky area to me as to whether or not some sort of easement's going to have to be required for the relocation of that pole. And it would seem to me that AT&T would be the ones that would need to acquire that easement. But because it is being moved because of the work that we're done, we might still have to pay for it. So I don't have the answer to that at this point in time. Is that accurate?
I think most of that's fair. I'll say some of that probably still there and probably could be negotiated, but I think that's for the most part, yes.
Okay. Questions?
So it would, that drainage right there would affect basically everybody to the right of that Depot Street then, right?
Yes. Now, it's going to obviously increase the flow down this way as well, but you know, what we're going to do is, and we've talked to Homestead about this as well as Bryant Bank, and they both said, because we've done it in the past, we're just going to try to keep that ditch cleaned out so that there's nothing to impede the flow. That then goes underneath College Street and that drainage ditch down between Davis Plaza and CVS, and then runs into Town Creek in the back.
So is there a conversation, Brian, that this may improve the property?
Well, at the very least, as long as, we don't have to compensate for anything that doesn't diminish the value. But I think there's an argument that it would increase the value. It would also clean up some of these easement issues, I think, or could move some of this stuff, and there's a couple of those arguments, but at the end of the day, I don't think that the compensation that the city would have to pay for this would be substantial. Because like you said, at the very least, you can argue that it's an improvement and not a diminishment to the value of the property.
Yeah, I don't think the compensation is really not what's the top of mind for me, because I mean, obviously, you know, there's a value on it. But I mean, it may be different if this culvert was in the middle of that property. It would diminish the whole value of the, you know what I'm saying?
And my understanding
Yeah.
is basically, we're asking for an easement, for all these other easements, they're prescriptive of it, but what are you gonna do, you know, with a piece of property that has a pole in the middle of it?
Right.
There's other things already. Fair market value of that little 4/100ths of an acre, that would have to be calculated, baked into whatever appraisal would be done of it. So I think the amounts that we looked at probably were, you know, may have been, you know, a little on the higher side of what it could actually appraise for those very reasons.
Yeah.
So, there was some flooding, when this backs up and it goes into this yard, it went across the street, and so it was causing some flooding onto the Homestead property as well. It's not as evident from this picture. You can see that, you know, this drainage, portion of the drainage ditch right here is not overflow, but if you look down this way, this part of the property was in fact flooded.
Is the culvert there, is that on the other side of the road? Is that
This,
on the-
this is on the red pickup truck side,
That is right there.
this part.
Okay.
And the property we're talking about is on the other side of the road. But this was the only picture that I had that showed those two 30-inch pipes that, so you could, you know, get an idea. We're replacing those with a 12-foot by 3-foot box culvert.
Can you go back to your first slide?
Well, that was my first.
Oh, your
Which
second one then?
Okay. That one?
Yes. So that green and that blue is all one parcel, but the
No,
green,
no.
no, that's why I asked
Two
earlier.
separate
Okay.
parcels.
Yeah,
I misunderstood.
yeah, yeah.
So this blue is one parcel, that's one parcel. This parcel belongs to Bryant Bank. Of course, the bank is actually right here, but this is vacant land. It does belong to the bank. And this belongs to Homestead Savings and was once part of all of this that belonged to Hardee's, but it was split off at some point in time. Homestead Savings has owned this property since 1994, so it's been a while. And nothing's been done with it, obviously, in all that time, so.
Can we this me thinking out loud. Can we revisit this in 2 weeks?
Well, we could, like I said, I think time is of the essence, in my opinion. Is there a reason?
I'd like to see it with my own eyes, the property, if I could.
Okay.
I didn't get a chance to get out there this week. I didn't really know where the area was really, but now I think I do. I'd like to just see it and revisit it in 2 weeks if we could. Just my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, because I believe that time is of the essence. Maybe we could set up a time for all of us to go look at it. And maybe have a special meeting so that we can get this thing put to bed as quickly as possible. Like I said, I got a contractor waiting for an authority to proceed, and we've got some other things that we need to do, and there's a conversation that we need to have with that contractor. You know, any unnecessary delays, he could make a claim for excess cost and that sort of thing, and I'm trying to minimize that if I can.
Yeah, and I'm just one voice. I mean, if we
I
want to
understand.
proceed tonight, I mean, I'm good with that too, but.
Well, I'd like to get some
Yeah.
Of
feedback.
course, if they accept the offer, this process is over.
It is, and again, maybe I'm the eternal optimist. I think once this process gets started, he will accept the offer. I just by comparison, Shelby County's got a website on all these various easements that they acquire and what they pay for them. And now, granted, some of them are in more rural spaces than this, so the value of the property is probably lower, but some of them are much larger easements. And what we offered, is significantly higher than what the county has paid for, easements. But again, the reasoning for it was, there was a market, although not an appraised market value, but there was a market price point established for the property. And based on a price per acre, what we offered, which was $4,000, was equivalent to, for that 4/100ths of an acre it was basically $100,000 an acre is what the market reference we had. What, not from any type of appraisal or anything, but just a market reference that we were given. Then the other part of the reason for that number was it was gonna be less than what this process would cost us otherwise.
His intent, of course, was to, not have to bring in litigation. But as it turns out, I don't think the litigation costs are gonna be prohibitive in this. I mean, last condemnation, public purpose hearing, I had less than 5 minutes. So, it doesn't take very long to go in there and go, this is what we're planning to do, this helps with the water drainage, therefore this is for a public purpose. The judge determines there's a public purpose, then it's sent out to the commissioners, and you have an hour-long hearing where basically you bring your appraiser or bring whoever you value the property, and then they say, this is what I think, and the property owner goes, well, no, I think this is what it is. So you basically, as far as I go, it's a very short pleading that we file, 5 minutes, 10 minutes in front of the probate judge, and then maybe 45 minutes to an hour in front of the commissioners to get evaluation. Now, it does get a little more expensive and a little more, if there's an appeal to a circuit court or there's a jury trial, that can increase the cost and everything. But no, making that offer baked in, trying to avoid litigation costs was probably a smart thing to do. But at this point, we've tried honey. Now it's unfortunately time for vinegars. I mean,
Yeah.
we may have to follow. I would recommend following this.
Still think you need to walk it?
Well, I mean, I'll go with what the council, I mean, if they want to introduce it tonight, I mean, we'll make a decision that way, one way or another, but,
If my memory serves me right, doesn't the telephone pole run the creek towards Taco Bell too? Then it turns into a power line.
No, there is a power line which is separate. That's a communications line by AT&T. And, so down on the south end of his property, there is a power line. There is also another easement for a road coming out of where Taco Bell is into his property as well. I mean, there are so many other utilities and easements already there, it doesn't make a lot of
It's
sense.
basically an unbuildable piece of property.
Well, I don't
well,
know
that
about
corner, that corner would be, that's what I'm trying to get,
Right.
yeah.
But there's already, it's a ditch, and since that ditch is a long-established, public drainage tributary for the city of Columbiana, we would never allow him to build anything on that thing. We just can't.
Yeah, okay.
All right, if there's a motion, again, because I'm concerned about timeliness, I would like to have someone enter a motion for this resolution. Let's find the resolution real quick. Go back. So let me just, real quick, before we make that decision, I want to say, so obviously, this standard resolution, so we've got a water drainage issue along Depot Street. We engaged engineers, they did a study, they came up with a plan on what we could do to mitigate that. We have to obtain permanent rights of way or easements on the property. And the thing is that this is the parcel number, and even though the area where we want to put the easement fronts Depot Street, the physical address, which is that little flagpole lot I was talking about, is actually 104 East College Street, and that comes from when the property was subdivided at some point in time. So this resolution says that the council agrees that we acquire this 4/100ths of an acre, and then the diagram of the project is what I showed you before. So that's basically okay. So the city council will be resolving that the right-of-way be acquired and the property condemned if necessary. It's a judgment of our city that it's in the public interest to do this. And it includes obtaining the right-of-way and temporary construction easements, which once the construction's over, those little spaces around there. And again, Homestead has not had any issue with doing any of this work. It's just been an issue of a permanent easement, which unfortunately we're obligated to do if we move forward with this. So, would anyone care to enter this resolution, make a motion to enter this resolution into the record? So does everyone here want to see the property?
Yeah, I'm glad to see the property more.
Okay, so just one wants to see the property, the rest of you don't?
I'll
aren't
go.
interested? Pardon?
I'll go.
Okay. All right, so if we're not gonna enter this into, or adopt the resolution tonight, I would like to have, a special meeting as soon as possible. And that would be either, before the end of this week or Monday. I'll be at the, League of Municipalities, next week, and I'd like to be here. I don't have to be, though, as long as we can get a quorum. Ricky, you could lead the special meeting if we decide to do that. So everybody, be thinking about which one of those days, be Thursday, Friday, or Monday.
Can we walk it tomorrow?
Pardon?
Can we walk it tomorrow?
Oh, you can walk it tomorrow. I'm just talking about a special meeting. Now, you want to do the meeting after you walk it?
When's tomorrow?
Wednesday.
You would have to.
You have to post it. Yeah, you have to post it.
You wouldn't have time to have a meeting after tomorrow.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
I'm not coming tomorrow.
Pardon?
I said I won't be able to come tomorrow anyway.
And then Thursday, we have a planning is coming.
Pardon?
Planning's on Thursday.
We can do it.
Well, I mean,
So
you
let's
know,
we do it
it
by-
depends upon the time of day that you guys are available to do it. Are you talking about a morning, 5 in the afternoon, 3 in the afternoon, or what?
What time, Ricky?
I mean, it would be after, I could do it after 3 probably.
And when is the planning commission meeting?
6 o'clock, Thursday.
Thursday? So we could do it Thursday, we could do it Friday. We couldn't do it tomorrow, to Brian's point about needing to notice the meeting.
I cannot do Thursday evening meeting.
So Friday? This won't take long, so,
I can do Friday.
or Monday.
Let's do
Monday
I'll be at the
better.
beach.
Monday better?
I won't be here.
Okay, now we don't, you guys just wanna see the property, now we're talking about the meeting, so. You guys could go by and see the property individually anytime you want to,
Okay.
and then we could have the meeting, either Friday or Monday.
Follow me. I can do it Friday. I won't be there Monday.
What day's best for the rest of you?
Either.
Not good either.
You said you couldn't do Thursday, right?
Monday works better for me, but
All right, Monday, how early would you guys wanna be able to do it on Monday? 4 o'clock? Special meeting? That work?
fine.
Is that for everybody but Kim? All right, so we will table this until, the special meeting that we are, gonna set for 4 o'clock Monday. Anything else?
Mayor, this is the problem with bringing the lawyer to the meeting. You probably need to do it on a motion to table and have a vote on it.
All right. Ricky, you wanna make a motion to table it?
yeah, I'll make a motion, we table resolution 052501.
I'll say.
Okay, and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay. Okay, this is a resolution establishing the use of electronic vote counting devices. And since our city clerk has just been to all the training for the upcoming election, I'm gonna let her explain what this one's all about.
There was a change in the, vote counting machines that are used for, ADA accessible, in case you can't, if you have to voice vote. So anytime there's a change in those, we have to do a resolution stating what devices are gonna be used. So that's what the Express Vote BMD, the ballot marking device, is. The DS200 tabulation device, that's the same thing that we've always used, where you put your ballots in and it counts them.
Right.
Those are the same. The other devices have changed, so we just have to do a resolution saying that those are what we're gonna use.
Okay. Is there a motion to introduce a resolution for the electronic voting?
I make a
Devices.
motion, we accept resolution 05-2502, establishing the use of electronic vote counting devices.
I'll
Second.
Okay, the motion been seconded. I think all we need is a voice vote, right? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution passed. Okay, what this one is appointing the city clerk as the election manager. The statute says the mayor's the manager unless the mayor is gonna be seeking office, and I will be a candidate for office. So, this resolution appoints the city clerk as our election manager.
I'll introduce resolution 05-2503 is appointing the city clerk for election manager.
Second.
Okay, and all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the resolution passed. Any other city business? No. Okay, mayor's report, real quick. So I had a meeting last week, I guess it was April 16th, so it's a little bit more than last week, with 58 Inc. And what we talked about is 58 Inc. is coming up in the middle of this month, and we'll go to International Conference of Shopping Centers. It's a retail trade conference in Las Vegas. They go to it every year, and they carry with them profiles of all of the communities that 58 Inc. provides economic development support for. So we talked about profiles of the community. We talked about, growth, housing starts. And the other thing that we talked about is tax abatements and different types of support that we can provide to attract new business to the community. So, as you know, there is a business that is wanting to start up and has already started a crypto mining business, is now wanting to start a data center out at in the industrial park on Industrial Boulevard at the old Greedy site. They'll be tearing that down. We're going to have a meeting later this week, and 58 Inc. will participate in that. And my guess is the discussion about potential abatements, so it may come up there. And 58 Inc. will explain that process to them, and what it, if this moves forward, what the city can do is not only abate city taxes, but they can abate county and state taxes as well under this particular statute. So, can you add anything to that?
Not particularly.
Okay.
It's there's a lot of ins and outs, a lot of devil in the details to it.
Right.
But I am very familiar with overall that you have more tools in your toolbox. Like I said.
Right. So whether or not that would happen, who knows? And what I would want to do is understand their business model and what they're going to do. And the presentation that they made several months ago was pretty devoid of all of that detail. And so they're going to be meeting with us. I think we're going to do it virtually, either Thursday or Friday morning. And they claim that they've got more information, more details about their specific plans and that sort of thing. So that'll be good. All right, moving on. So on the 21st and 22nd, Gary Palmer, Congressman Palmer, had a Washington Update meeting, which was pretty much open. It was sponsored by several chambers within the congressman's district, and so we went to that. We had the city of Columbiana had a table there, and so we had several folks from the city at that meeting. There was an interruption, if you will, or a protest, so that was kind of interesting. And then the next day, every quarter when he's back in town, we have a mayor's meeting, all the mayors in his district with the congressman. So I went to that as well, and that I like that better because instead of just listening to him talk, you have an interaction and you can get a little bit more dialogue. Shelby County Senior Picnic was on the 23rd of April, biggest one yet. It was here in Columbiana at the Expo Center, and they had over 1,100 people at this thing. Had a neat little band called the Black Sedan Band. Started off with a little tribute to the Blues Brothers, and did a little. I got a little video of everybody getting on board the Love Train, and that was kind of fun. So. Shelby County Senior Picnic was good, and it was a good success. On May 1st, went to the Greater Birmingham Mayor's Prayer Breakfast. I've been to a few of those. Really a good event. This particular one, Jeremiah Castile, a former All-American at Alabama, an NFL defensive back. Full disclosure, I'm an Auburn alum, but still. He was the keynote speaker. He is the team chaplain for the University of Alabama football team. It has been for 20 years. And he had a very, very inspiring talk. I was really, really impressed. And then as he did the last time, Mayor Bricado from Hoover tries to get the mayors together for a photo. I thought it was kind of funny. He pulls everybody together for this photo, and he almost got himself squeezed out of that particular picture. But this is D'Angelo Perkins, who's the mayor of Harpersville. This is Stan Hoagland for the mayor of Gardendale in Jefferson County. Yours truly, Mayor Randall Woodfin of Birmingham. Frank Bricado of Hoover, obviously, he splits. He's about 50-50, Jefferson and Shelby County. This is Stuart Welch. He's the mayor of Mountain Brook, and Deborah Hudson of Wilton. Unfortunately, I don't know this gentleman. He's a Jefferson County mayor, but I know I have seen him at league meetings. And so when I go to the league convention next week, I'm going to make sure I look him up because he was in this picture. But I think it's pretty good here. When Frank pulled these mayors together, you got about 8 mayors in that picture, and 4 of them are Shelby County mayors. So I think we were well represented. And there was a leadership dinner the night before. And there were many, many more mayors at that particular leadership dinner. I had a telecom with ADEM after the prayer breakfast to talk about supplemental SRF funding for the sewer project. They're working up a scenario and a proposal for us. I need to probably follow up with them by the end of this week or early next week. They're shorthanded. Their regular guy who did this left, and so somebody else is picking up the load. And then later this week, or excuse me, on the 5th, yesterday, I had a telecom with Fraser Lanier, who was the investment banker that refunded our debt in 2021. They are going to come up with some scenarios that we might be interested in looking at, and then, as I mentioned, the annual convention. So any questions on that stuff? We've already covered the announcements. Are there any public comments from anyone? Yes, sir.
My name is Robert Earl. I teach at the trade school. I'm also a bus driver. And I just want to know if there's something that can be done about the condition of Industrial Road in front of Columbiana Middle School. I travel that road twice a day, every day. And it's gotten to the point where it's a little narrower now, right there by the railroad tracks. Every time we come over the railroad tracks, if there's a car coming towards Industrial, you have a hard time turning and hit potholes. There's
So is it,
turning into the school.
so if you were going over the railroad tracks at Depot Street and you were turning left on the,
Turning right.
so turning right on Industrial going out to 47?
It has gotten bad.
Okay, we will certainly take a look at it.
And
Now,
it's narrow, though. It seems like the road's getting narrow with the water coming down through there by the railroad tracks. So if a car's not over far enough, it could potentially put a bus over into the railroad tracks.
so, you know, the challenge is obviously, we have just about, I think, completed our paving and what we had budgeted for this fiscal year. So, I mean, if there's potholes or anything that need to be patched, but as far as resurfacing and fixing that, that would probably, and we would have to budget for that in the next fiscal year, but I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. We had an issue, not long ago that was brought up by, again, another bus driver about the potholes in the railroad crossing there on Depot Street. That was really a difficult process because the railroads have enormous power and control over those, and we can't go fix them. They have to fix them. And finally, after a lot of prodding, they came out, but I was not really happy with the patching that they did. So it's still pretty rough, but at least they did put some asphalt and fill those potholes.
The biggest fear is when you're in the bus and you're going down Industrial, you're really close to the edge. Well, if another car is coming from 47, they're putting you awfully close to that edge. And to me, eventually somebody's gonna lay a bus over on them railroads.
All right, well, I'm gonna go take a look at it. Well, the good thing is you know about it, and,
Yes.
and you could, if necessary, stop with
That's
oncoming
exactly
traffic.
what
So, but I appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
That's one comment. The second one is, I'm a homeowner. I live on Main Street.
I
live on Main Street.
Okay,
And, you know, I travel Main Street from time to time in the evening time, sometimes 9, 10 o'clock at night. And this actually affects me as a bus driver as well. But the red light going north and south on Main Street, in the evening time, I have literally sat there for about 10 minutes. And I just run the red light. No offense, Jeff, but 10 o'clock at night.
arrest him.
10 o'clock at night, I'm not gonna sit there 10 minutes waiting for that light to change. I have to sit there, and I have actually ran the light and got home. I live almost to where Brown's is. And looking in my rearview mirror, and I still see a car sitting at the red light, and that light hadn't changed. Now, that's like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. But during the day, when I'm traveling from Elvin Hill to the middle school, I might sit there 3 to 4 rounds waiting to go through that red light. Because it seems like the north and south light doesn't change as quick, changes quicker than the east and west light.
Okay.
So I didn't know if there's something that they may be able to work on
There,
some timing of that light.
you can work the timing on it, so
But
let me,
especially at nighttime.
I'll get with our public works
I was
director.
honest. I had to that red light.
I'll get with our public works director and
So
see what
that's just two
we
comments
can
I
do
had.
that. Okay, appreciate it.
Thank
Any other comments?
Both those are good comments, and I know
sir.
exactly what you're talking about with both of them.
Just one question about Kim, the deletion, and I know you guys have already voted on it, but the deletion of line item 10. So if a food truck is parked and they're allowed to stay overnight, does the property they park on have to be their personal property?
No, the owner
It
of
can
the
be
business.
the
It's-
owner of another business.
So if they get permission to put their food truck on someone's property, they need to also have permission from that owner to leave their vehicle there. So not just decide they want to do it. So if the owner, just like we talked about the overflow lot, if somebody were gonna leave their vehicles in the overflow lot overnight, technically they should get permission from the county to do that. So whoever the property owner is, and the way the ordinance is written is oftentimes there's a business operator that doesn't own the property where the business is. So the ordinance requires permission for both. So the business operator may decide, I don't want a food truck here. And so the ordinance is written such that the property owner and the business owner have to provide permission. That answer the question?
Sure.
Okay. Is there something that you unhappy with about that, or what was?
No, I'm just curious.
Okay.
It wasn't, I mean, to me, it was clear as mud. Like if the property had to be owned by the business owner, or if it had to be the owner of the food truck, I was just curious.
Okay. All righty. Any other questions or comments? It's gone now, so we don't have to worry about it. So. All right. If not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.